Hello there, BIC podcast episode number 62. This was going to be a little bit all over the place. We will have a little bit of a theme in the main topic, but we'll go in a couple of different directions on it, I think. But we'll also talk $3.72 million OPC case sale, Gretzky rookie year OPC case sale. We'll ask Eric why he did it and what he intends to do with the case now that he has it. That and more in this episode of the BIC podcast. Yes, the watchful eyes of Brett Favre upon us as always. So first, let me start off with the 3.72 million. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share. I'll share from the Instagrams. I think there were a couple different places that had it, but I guess, look, I know you guys love them. I need you all to calm down. I know you all love Sports Card Investor, but they had it here. It was the quickest one that I could find that had available the picture and the image. So, deal with it. You'll all live. So here's a little graphic with the case in it. Okay. So just for visual purposes, if you're watching the YouTube version, at least you get to see something visual. So really, it's a fucking cardboard box with more cardboard boxes inside of it. So literally, that's what it comes down to. But this particular cardboard box, with the potential behind it, sold for 3.72 million. So that's including the juice. So that's with the buyer's premium included. So not cheap. So right now, that's Eric like button money. That's hey, thanks to AMGcollectibles.ca and AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. Support the channel, friends of the channel. There will be an AMG Collectibles podcast tomorrow. So I'm including the segue right now. Unfortunately, this will not go towards Eric's money that he used towards buying this case. Questions will be asked.
But I already have some questions.
Please ask questions.
So,
ask questions.
After the hot take that I got reamed somewhat over the coals, Refractor, I apologize. I know you have a great relationship, and I reiterated my example of the Jeff Wilson, Dr. Beckett thing. So go back to the previous video, read the comments, you'll understand more. However, it is kind of ironic that Carlos here pulls up good old Jeffrey Wilson's post. And it's also ironic that you see liked by Sanderson to Orr. It also is ironic that it says, Jeff Wilson, don't sleep on the hockey card market. And here we are having Eric, who purchased the case in his comfy bed.
We'll say allegedly, for legal purposes, we'll say allegedly, but go on.
But he's about to sleep. And Jeff's telling him, don't sleep on the hockey card market. Eric, you got to get up, buddy.
He's trying to sleep, but the case is underneath him. And it's a very awkward angle. Like, it's not very comfortable at all.
Listen, I've put in a lot of hours lately, flying back and forth all over the place in my private jet. To examine the box, make sure that there's something that I wanted. I had to fly off to Munich to get the money out of the vault. I had to, then I had to fly back and, transfer funds into an American account. And then
you're basically alluding to a Swiss numbered account, which is definitely not in Munich, Germany.
No, that's why I said my vault was.
So you have a vault in Munich, Germany instead of Switzerland?
Yes.
Wouldn't a Swiss numbered account have made more sense with your shady dealings?
No, absolutely. I didn't say it was the right move. Just where I was able to store some money, offshore. Probably wasn't the best thought. But anyway, my accountant said that was what I should do.
As a history major, Brandon, I have so many jokes, but I'm going to spare you all. I'm just saying, as someone who studied World War II extensively, there's a lot of jokes here. I'm leaving them all alone. Please continue.
I don't know if he watches, but looking at the picture here, it's cool to see the box and the case and everything. And Bobby, Bobby Burrell there, he's big into his wax packs and things like that. And I would like to point something else out about this box that's very unique. Somebody paid $3.72 million for hockey bubblegum because the box clearly states it is hockey bubblegum and then smaller print with cards.
Facts.
So somebody just bought a $3.7 million box of bubblegum.
Yes.
With cards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Indeed.
That's pretty interesting.
Seems pretty worth it to me. Seems like the right move. I'm with it. But
I
yes,
like
so
bubble
I wanted
gum.
to make sure we shared that here. But real quick, let's touch on a couple of things. The reality is, I think what's interesting about this, and we talked about it on the live stream, we talked about it a little bit here and there. It's a tough thing to justify because one of the things we discussed in the live stream is just what's your best case scenario? What, at this point, you're doing it effectively almost to show off because the reality is that the boxes individually don't hold the value. The contents in terms of the cards won't hold the value because there just isn't enough there. Now, out of that case, you would pull quite a number of Gretzky rookies. But as if we talked about it and alluded to in the past, it's not like Gretzky rookies are high percent. So even in relatively high grade, which I think Bobby helped us out a little bit, and you could expect, honestly, out of a lot of, unless the box is like pristine, and the centering happened to be on point, and everything, like you get a god box. Realistically, you're looking at 6s and 7s, probably some 8s, maybe a couple, like 2 9s if everything goes your way. The only thing you're not going to get is 10s. You won't get those. A 9 if the hand of God personally touches you and says you may have one. 9s are available, Eric. It is possible. The problem is it would require the absolutely perfect box where the centering, it'd have to be like an early print. And it'd have to be like you got the color, you got the centering, you get everything going. The problem is it's just not, the likelihood is not there. And also you got to pay the additional cost because in order to get it graded, you're paying a premium. You're going to be paying a premium price to get them graded. So you got to factor in that cost. You got to factor in the storage cost. You got to factor in and realistically, I would venture to say, even talking with Brad when we had him on the live stream talking about it a little bit, there were different varieties of folks or groups that were looking into it. And at least let's put it this way, allegedly, at least one of the groups, one of the potential bidders, we don't know if that's who won. It's Eric, but we don't know if the person who was potentially part of one of those groups, if they had been the winner, their original plan was to open a couple of the boxes, not all of them, but open some of them and use it for content. And if you're going to do that, well, then fair enough. There you go. Then you're giving yourself something additional to it. But there's almost no scenario that I can foresee. The problem is it's just so high. The number is just so high because you're looking at this is a 16 box case. So you got to do is do a little bit of math there, a little bit of maths. And when you're looking at it, it's like, it's pretty rough. I can give you guys a guesstimate of what it comes out to, but it's comfortably 200 and change per box and 200,000 and change per box. And that's substantial. Like I just don't see it. I'm not sure how you reconcile
it. And we've been over this a couple of times, and I think we all agree that if you open the box, you're a fool. If you want your money, do what you want, obviously, but you spent $3 million plus. Don't touch the box because as soon as you open it, it's going to depreciate. Because we already discussed that we can estimate how many Gretzkys are in there. We can estimate the grade of what the majority of them are going to be. And we can go out and spend like $215,000 at the expo, buy them all, and have just those. Because everything else in the box is worthless. There's nothing else in those boxes that are worth any more than $1. Nothing. So it's if you crack it, the show is over. The special rare box is no longer. Now you have 16 boxes. Well, now you got 16 of something. Right now you have one of something. You crack it, now you have 16 of something. And as soon as you start opening them and pulling Gretzky's out, now you're just adding Gretzky's to the market, which there are millions. So
they're not millions. They're a substantial amount. Let's not go all the way. Look, we already had somebody that wanted to argue about us, wanted to argue in one of the previous comment sections about us, like, I think you guys are exaggerating. It's like, first of all, congratulations, thank you for watching. But secondly, it's still substantial. it's still quite a number
I'd be
of graded
curious of how
examples.
many print runs they did, and maybe that's something Bobby knows or something, but I'd be curious how many print runs they did, because I mean there are just hundreds of thousands of Gretzky rookies of it, that were made. They're not rare. We joke all the time that as soon as you cross the Canadian border, you're handed one as a welcoming gift.
I
That
remember the comment Carlos is
doorstops
referring
up there.
to.
So no, it's if you crack that, you're you are just so wealthy that you don't mind throwing your money away, because that's all that is.
Does anybody know what the what like a pack cost would be? Because I was curious if you mentioned somebody doing it, opening it for the content purpose, and I was thinking if it's somebody that has a large social media following to where they could get revenue from opening it on YouTube or whatever, and then they took it a step further and actually did it as like a break that would create more revenue. I wonder, is there potential with it? It would take a hell of a lot, a large channel to create enough YouTube revenue, but combined with the breaking, I wonder if there would be anywhere like any room for profit on that side of it.
I think it'd be tough. So I did the quick math number just since we were talking about it. So it works out to 232,500 per box.
Ooh.
Like it's just so much per box that it's like you're not getting there. Now I'll give you guys some context. So just like I said, I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about this. Again, we're just having some fun with this one because at the end of the day, it's not our money. Anybody can do. I'm going to caveat all of this. If somebody wants to spend that kind of money on a box, knock yourself out. It's not my money. So I'm very much in the listen. I'm in the live and let live era of my life where as long as it's not interfering with anything I'm doing, kudos to you, sir, madam, thing, whatever. Have fun. You want to open all the boxes? Have at it. You want to set them on fire? Set them ablaze. Hey, take a video. I'll be. I'll take. Yeah, take a video. Take a video. So to give you guys some context, I pulled up the pop report on the OPC Gretzky. So this is just graded, PSA graded only, nothing else. So just that you're already over 10,107 cards. That is graded Gretzky's, period, in all grades, all levels. There are 2 PSA 10s, as is often known, but PSA 9s, there's currently 93. So we're pushing 100 PSA 9s. So it's like, again, it's PSA 8s, 805, PSA 7s, 1,345, PSA 6s, 1,703, PSA 5s is 1,549, and PSA 4s is the most common one that we've got here, 1,839 PSA 4s. So 1,800 of them just in the one condition alone. And then we've got some in qualifiers as well. The one that seems to have the most qualifiers is PSA 8 qualifier, 223 of those. But we're pushing 100 PSA 9s. So that's a pretty sizable number as well.
And
so again, it's not a scarce card. It's just not.
And again, this is just PSA. I mean, imagine how much KSA is done up in Canada.
And I'll throw you one more twist on this. One more little twist. PSA DNA is separate from that. So how about autograph versions? Autograph versions, which is obviously a much tougher card, right? Because Gretzky, after a while, stopped signing his rookie card. But even still, PSA DNA has 191. So you're pushing 200 just autograph, and that is separate from the regular set pop on the other. So there's another nearly 200 cards. Add that to it. And again, this is only PSA, just one, obviously the big third-party grader, but just one third-party grader. I will pull up the SGC information just while we're chatting, but I wanted to give you guys some context on some numbers. 10,000 plus, just PSA alone. It's pretty substantial.
10,000 plus with only sub 100 combined 9s and 10s is still like, even though obviously, you got several years before grading even became a thing of having to keep the cards in good condition, there was still probably plenty of wax out there that was unopened and available on, old store shelves or whatever. That's kind of incredible that it's less than 100 9s and 10s combined with a 10,000 plus pop report. I thought nines was higher, to be honest. I knew the tens was low. I thought the 9 grade was higher. So
There is
that's
certain
pretty
condition
interesting.
sensitivities. You gotta remember the design of the card does lend itself to certain types of damage. There is chipping, there can be registration issues. Like there's certain things that are going to knock down. So I pulled up the SGC one just so we can add that to what we're talking about. So I said there was over 10,000 in PSA. Well, SGC can add another 1,100, give or take, to that total. So that's SGC alone in the different grades. There is one SGC 10.
Ooh.
We want to get super fancy. And there are 14 nines, 27 8.5s, and 66 8s. That is in the SGC pop report. And the most common grade for SGC seems to be a tie, actually, between authentic and SGC 5 at 128 each. So, so it gives you kind of an idea. It's about 10%, give or take. Well, a little over 10%. But okay, so between the two. So you're talking 11,000 and change between these two big companies. That's pretty substantial. So it just gives you a bit of an idea. Now, of course, everybody's going to caveat, oh, what about crackouts and stuff? Like, I understand. I get what you're saying. So there is obviously going to be some crowd. But look, man, 11,000. And we're not even counting BGS, and they've definitely graded some, or BVG. They've definitely graded some. KSA has graded some. Even CSG probably has a few, but obviously, relatively speaking, CGC, CSG, whatever, would be very small relative to it.
And then
Was that?
And then there's a few 100,000 that are still raw.
There's quite a number, yeah. Like we saw stacks of them when we went to the. Again, what's funny is so Brandon said he saw that comment. It's like I'm sitting there like, if I had more energy and more time, I could literally walk around with a camera and go to a bunch of dealers and go, all right, how many you got? 25. How many do you have? 30. How many do you have? It just we could do a quick tally around the room. And the number may shock you. By the way, they're so common. Relative. It's all relative. Commonness is relative here. They're common enough that some of the dealers don't even bother putting that on top of their showcase. It's not a big enough deal. It's like you have to ask, and they'll show them to you if you want to, because they have them. But it's just but like Gretzky rookie, you've seen one Gretzky rookie, you've seen them all. Like it's not like it's that crazy a thing.
I was curious.
Yep.
It's from relatively the same year. Obviously, Topps, not OPC, but a common or a card similar, I guess, in aspect of the Gretzky there with only the 2 10s. I looked up the 80 Topps Rickey Henderson.
Rickey Henderson. I thought you were going to say the Rickey Henderson. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually. I mean, I guess 10,000 with 100 9s and 10s. The Henderson is it's about almost 36,000 total in pop with the qualifiers and everything and the half grades. And there's about 23, 25 with the 9s and 10s. So it's not quite as much of a different or spread on the margin, but it's pretty similar. And that one definitely does have crackouts and stuff like that. But
yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I will include it in the description for you folks. And the 80 Topps Rickey Henderson that you're talking about is infamous for being one of those ones that is notoriously pop controlled. And there's been a lot made out of it. Here, I found it. There's a video by a vintage card curator who only does a video once in a blue moon. And he did a video, I believe, on the Rickey Henderson. And if I can locate it, I will include it in the description for you folks if you want to check it out. Because he tried to figure out what happened. Here you go. It was called Does PSA Grade the Card or the Player? This is 4 years ago. This video was a deep dive into the 1980 Henderson rookie. And that has 12,000 views, but it was 4 years ago examining the 80 Topps Rickey Henderson and talking about different factors that might have influenced it and trying to debunk which things might be a thing. I think most reasonable people that have been around a while believe that one is pretty heavily pop controlled because given the sheer quantity that have been submitted, it's difficult because other cards, and he even did an analysis with the sheets, with the uncut sheets, location on the sheet, because that can impact it, right? If you're on the edge, certain condition issues. So he looked at different possible factors, and it just doesn't seem to jive. It's a notoriously unlucky card when it comes to your gemming. you know, I'll leave that to you. But I've got the video here, and I will leave a link in the description for you so you can check out a deep dive. I thought it was very well done. This is, like I said, a 4-year-old video, but I thought it was very well done and very interesting. I'm glad you brought that one up, Brandon, because it reminded me that I see. Tell you something. 4 years, Eric. A lot of time has gone by because I remember watching that video when it came out, and it was actually a good topic of discussion at the time because obviously it was well done. A very interesting topic. So I really, so let me ask you guys. So we covered a couple of elements of it. Really, top down, my thought is congratulations to the seller. 3.72 million is massive. It's life changing. Apparently it was found in Regina, so in Regina, Saskatchewan. So somewhere out in the wheat fields, they found the case.
And they didn't pay 3.7 for it, so they made out.
Yep. Even with the juice, even with fees and whatever, like it's substantial. It's life-changing money there. So congratulations to them. It was 20 cents per pack. So 16 boxes. So a pretty good return on investment. Good job by them, I guess. Well done. Any other last thoughts on the case overall? Like, to me, it's best of luck. I hope there's some content around it. I would love to see it, but I have no idea. I have no idea what you do with that.
My last question, this, you guys can answer your thoughts, but then obviously the viewers or listeners, whoever, if you want to chime in too, do you think at that value, if they keep it sealed, there's any upside to the future? Because it's like you said, 230 some thousand per box on average. I mean, it's a cool piece to own, but I don't know what the upside is to it. Like, I think it does just become a bragging point. And what else could you do in the hobby? And I know Eric's gonna hate this, but you're picking an item that you just and again, they're obviously wealthy enough to do it, but you just invested 3.7 million into a single item, or if you want to break the boxes up, but I don't know. It's surprising that somebody would do that, I guess.
I think to kind of answer your question, and I'll definitely refer to the folks in the comment section. So folks in the YouTube in the comment section would love to hear your thoughts on this. I think what it comes down to is that this person obviously had enough money where they clearly don't care, or a consortium. It doesn't have to be an individual. It can be a consortium that just decided they wanted to do this. I don't know what the upside would be. It's tough to say. Like, it's not like Gretzky is going to be more famous later. Like, he's already a Mount Rushmore hockey guy. That's done. It's established. His records are what they are. I don't think he's going to become less famous, so to speak, in the hockey realm. But at the same time, it's like every year that we go by, we're a little bit more separated from his era. I was alive for his era. Eric was alive for his era. You were alive for his era. But he retired in '99. So now we're in the year 2024. So we're 25 years, and we separate ourselves further and further and further from that era. And at a certain point, it's like and like I said, on the Friday, I have a lot more fun with it, but I'll say it again, just to repeat it. Gretzky played in a very specific era that was perfectly tuned to his skill set, the team he had. All the components were in place to allow him to do things that no one else has the opportunity to do, even if they want to. Even if an equivalent talent came around today, they wouldn't match the stats. They just couldn't. The game is different. You can't do it even if you wanted to. So some of those records are unassailable. The points record, I think, is untouchable. The goal scoring record, there's one guy right now who's chasing it who is at least within striking distance. And that is a surprise. There's a couple of other young guys like Austin Matthews over in Toronto. He is on a pace where maybe, but the problem is you got to keep doing it for another decade. It's not even worth discussing for like another 10 years, because even if he is able to maintain pace, it's still going to take a long time. This is not a 1 day or 1 year record. It's going to take a long time.
To bring up the point with the record too, we discussed it a couple episodes ago, but I did see a report, and it'll be interesting as time approaches closer. But there was a report where Obi had actually said he doesn't see playing past his current contract. So that's something that was kind of interesting to hear. I wonder if he's, right there within grasp, if he would change his thought on that. But he had made a statement he doesn't see playing past his current contract.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like it kind of goes back to what I was saying a moment ago. It's not like it's a 1 year record. it's a grind. It's consistent. You have to be able to play. You have to avoid injury. There's so many things that have to go right for you. Even if so, Mike Bossy probably would hold that record right now if his back hadn't given out. Like at the rate he, as great as Gretzky was, Bossy was a goal scoring machine. Like he just did it year after year after, and he was still a goal scoring machine when his back basically gave out on him. He had to retire at 30. Gretzky still had another 8 years. If Bossy continued like at close to his pace, he's a 700, 800, 900 goals. Like he's somewhere in that vicinity. He was almost 600 as it was, and he had to retire. So you're never going to know exactly what would have happened if he had been allowed, because there was still some time left in the offensive era. There was still time left in the 80s, and in the early 90s was still very prolific offensively. There was still some opportunities if they had been allowed to. It would have been interesting to see, because and also if you guys remember the way that the Islanders were, that young upstart Pat LaFontaine was about to start with that team, and unfortunately he came in on that team just as Bossy was basically out, and as the dynasty team basically got dismantled. So imagine if you got Bossy there to be part of that team, at least for a little bit, with a young Pat LaFontaine. Like that would have been interesting. Like the offensive talent, you would have been able to reload the cupboard a little bit. Again, one of the great what ifs, right? But just some stuff to think about. So we'll move on from that, but some good stuff to think about. Also, in spirit of what we were talking about earlier, I did get this in the mail, so I'll just quickly mention it. I picked this up not because I wanted it. It was a part of a 2-card lot. So we got a Medano and a PSA 10, also extremely rare, only 1,500 PSA 10. So very rare.
Yeah.
And this is either my second or third copy, but this was a part of a 2-card lot. This isn't the reason I bought it, because at this point, this is probably like a $30, $40 card or something. This is the reason I bought it.
$5 for it.
Yeah. So right here, you got a game used, 1 of 1 with President's Choice cards. These are actually pretty cool. I love the patches, and these are game used patches.
Nice.
Really nicely done on these guys. They do a good job on those. So this is the reason I bought the lot, and this is basically the toss-in, which tells you that at certain points, like there's plenty of them out there. They made a lot. So just bear in mind. Great card, but like I said, for me, the rookies don't do much for me, because honestly, a lot of them are pretty available. They just are. But yeah, that's probably my second or third copy. And most of the ones that I had, I actually graded myself. So that's probably that's the first one I've ever bought inadvertently as part of that 2-card lot. So anyway, okay. So we'll touch on a couple of things there. Now, actually, do we want to get kind of to I think we could get into the main topic a little bit. I think we can shift over to it, unless there was something else you guys wanted to hit on with this one. Good to shift over?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, sounds good. So a couple directions we can take this. So what I want to talk about is, and we're gonna have Brandon's "Don't Be a Dumbass" segment. That's gonna be kind of fun for us. But what I wanted to talk about, and what I was talking about before we hit record, was the idea of kind of firing your customer. So let me explain what first led me down that thought, and then also Brandon had his story, which also kind of led me down that thought. Now, the idea of firing your customer is not a new idea. It's available in a lot of different types of businesses, but it's not always a negative thing in a certain way. And by what I mean by that is that sometimes it's not that, oh, this customer's terrible, you don't want to deal with them. Sometimes it doesn't make sense for a business to have that kind of client. So they change their policies, or they change the way they do business. And they basically, what they're doing effectively is they're trying to discourage you from participating in it without saying so. It's not that they don't want your business, but that it might not make sense for what you're trying to do. So I'll touch on, Big Scott did a video on his channel recently, and I understood where he was coming from. So we'll talk about it from one angle, but there's a bunch of other angles we can take on it as well. But his angle was talking a little bit about the set registry, and we were chatting about that a little bit before we started hitting record. And he was talking about how he had his own set registry stuff that he was working on, but over time it's become less, not even less preferable. It's one of those things where it makes less and less sense all the time, because obviously the price on the lower end for the bulk rate has gone up to the point that it doesn't make sense for a lot of the cards, especially if you're doing like a player master collection or something like that. If you're doing like a higher end, set or something along those lines, it might still be all right, because you're probably paying more than what the minimum bulk rate would have been for it anyway. But if you're doing a 1970s set registry set, like 1976 Topps or something, and you're doing some commons, you needed a cheap bulk rate in order for it to make sense for you to submit some of those singles and some of those commons, because otherwise it's like, yeah, you're taking like $3 or $4 commons that are nice shape, granted, but you're basically trying to get 9s and 10s in order to fit in your registry. That's the only way it would make any sense for you. But as soon as we get to where we are right now, we're in an era now where you go look at the gem rate data. PSA is doing 1 million, 1.1, 1.2 million per month. And really, the only time they ever show any desire to bump up the numbers a little bit is when they do some kind of a special. And basically, half the cards they do now are Pokemon. And that doesn't really play into the registry at all either. And we also talked about it. So I'll touch on one more thing here and then I'll open up for you guys. We also talked about, SGC. We always tease because Brandon obviously is an SGC bulk submitter. He does business with that. But amongst the flying cars and many promises that SGC Pete has made for us, many, many promises, including a second podcast episode that we have yet to get. But one of the things they talked about for the longest time was having a set registry. So if you don't like what PSA is doing with the set registry, well, it would stand to reason, right? SGC, being that they were so customer friendly and everything, well, that hasn't happened either. And they did have a set registry at one point for people that may not be aware that joined the hobby, after the boom or during the boom. SGC had a set registry. I remember because I had cards in it at one point. And when they changed over their domain, they would have had to rebuild it, and they never did. And I think part of the problem is that I think they realized at a certain point it wasn't worth it for them to do so, and the value wasn't there for them. I still think there is some value. It can be fun for you if you don't take it too seriously and you use it in the spirit of being almost an inventory control kind of thing. If you're not trying to go too crazy for it, or if you're at the high end and you're competing with rich guys anyway who don't care, they'll just submit as many cards as they like. They're doing it anyway in bulk. But I think PSA has moved towards the model of bulk submitters. That's what they're looking for, really, not the individual grader who wants to send in 4 or 5 cards at a time. So a lot of places to go, but which one of you guys wants to take on some of that?
Well, just real quick. So, first of all, I can see the fun that a set registry could be. But I was just sitting here thinking, so you mentioned doing like a 70 set.
Sure.
And the set registry has always been interesting to me for those that have devoted to complete an entire set, especially something like that, that I don't know specifically how many cards were in that set, but I'm going to assume 500-600 cards, right? And
When
then
you talk 70 Topps baseball, 700 in some of them.
like, I was just throwing 5, 6. I
Yeah.
know, some of them were probably up even in the 8s, but if you think about this a second, building a set, and back in the day, we used to, put them in binders in our Ultra Pro 9 pocket pages,
Mhm.
which would hold 18 cards if you were really, strapped and doubled up 2 cards per
Well,
slot.
don't get too excited about the Ultra Pro. They haven't sponsored us yet. Eric.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, a 9 pocket generic page for our binder of no name.
As you were.
Our photo album. 'cause
We'll
I
hear you
use
out,
those.
BCW, but I need to hear numbers.
Yeah,
Go
well, that's the Timmy Two Hats company. So
I need to hear some
Even
numbers.
at 18, even at $8 a card,
It's
to
obscene.
slab
It's
18
Yeah.
to slab 18 commons, it would
Yes.
cost you $162
Yeah.
per 9 pocket page.
Yes.
Like, I never
It-
even thought of it like that, but
it
when
was
you
ne-
said
it was
set, I
never
was like,
it was never
"Holy
cheap.
shit, that would
So
be
so
expensive."
so Brandon, the reason I'm bringing this up is so like I said, I listened to Big Scott's. I'm referencing Big Scott's video, and I'll leave a link to it in the description if you guys want to check it out. So I understood his vantage point, but I was sitting there in the back of my mind. I go, the set registry was never cheap. Like I understood that obviously it was
True.
cheaper. It was cheaper, but if you were to look, full disclosure, just so we're all on the same page here, because I want to be as transparent as possible on this. I have 4 sets on the set registry. Four sets on the set registry, and only one of them is actually a complete set. I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. So I'll explain what they are. So the first one here that's on my list is the 1957 Topps Packers team set, a team set that has 12 cards in it. All of these, with the exception of one, I have graded one myself, and the other one so far I have purchased already graded. The only one that I'm missing right now, the last one that I need to complete that team set, is the Bart Star, obviously. And I'll have to kind of make my decision on what I want. But I'm not trying to compete for finest known. I'm not sitting out here looking for 9s and 10s. That's not my bag. That's not my game. But I have a pretty nice Packers team set. I'm actually pretty happy with it. My average grade is a little over 6. So it's actually a pretty decent set. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'll get the Bart Star and I'll figure that out. But one card left on that one. The other one is Mike Modano rookie set. This one is not included in that. I already have one. So this is a second or third, whatever it is now. But the point is, the rookie team set has 9. The rookie set has 9 cards total. I have 8 out of the 9. And I took my time because there was no hurry. They're all available. The last one I picked up for like $40 or whatever it was. So, and that'll be in probably my next mail day, whenever that comes in. So that is 8 of 9, and I'm missing one, and then that'll be it, and I'll be done. And I'll be in like a 25-way tie for first, because getting the 10s is not that expensive. So, like, whatever, it's not a big deal. Uh, the next one is 1963 Fleer, and I've got that one. Somebody cue the Fleer clip. Not me, but somebody can cue it. Uh, Don West Forever. So we want to make sure we include that. But the thing is, so that is 67 cards. That's the biggest set I've got on here. 67 cards. I have 42 of them so far, so I'm missing 25 to complete that set. And every single one of those cards I have purchased already graded. And for some of the commons, it costs me less to purchase already graded than it would cost for me to grade. So you could give me the card for free, and it would still cost me more money to get it graded, even if shipping was free, than if I just buy the damn thing already graded, especially if I'm talking like a mid grade, which is what I was shooting for. So just to put it in perspective. And the last one I just started this past weekend, funny enough, since Big Scott had his thing. This is the most recent one. I just started it by buying a card on ComC, and I will get it shipped later on. That's a 55 Bowman Packers team set, because I looked at it and it doesn't really have any crazy rookies or anything. I like the way the set looks. So to me, that's a very attainable set. The first card I bought on for it was the last card, one of the higher numbers, I guess, and I bought it in a 6, and it was $19. So go figure out what grading is, and when I get it shipped, I get it shipped. But I bought it already graded, done in a 6, $19. I probably could have gotten a couple of bucks cheaper, but I don't have to pay any additional shipping right now. It'll be consolidated with the shipping for the other thing later. That one is a 14 card set. So my point here is 12 card set, 9 card set, 14 card set, and the 67 card set. There are less than 100 cards total here. Less than 100 for 4 PSA registry sets that I've got on here. And really, this is just a checklist for me. If I go to the expo and I want to see something, what I have in the 63 Fleer, I can click on it and see where the gaps are, and then boom. To me, it's just a checklist management system at this point. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm not trying to be like, oh man, I got the finest set ever. Like, it's just a management system. So it's free. So for me, it's not the cost of basically the bulk rating isn't really a factor for me because of the way I do it. Now, for somebody else, again, the 1970 Top set. If somebody is trying to build that set, even at the cheapest possible level, like just to get a common grade, it's too expensive. It's madness. You got your little app there, Eric. You're showing off some of your Boston Bruins.
I am, the one that I'm working on and working on for years is the 6970 Topps. I have a 58.33% complete rate. I'm number 20 overall, with an average grade of 7.663. So I'm trying to complete it. I don't, it's like I can't stop now.
But the point is, Eric, it's just it's a checklist for you. It allows you to inventory control there. It allows you to see what you have, what you need, and all that. By the way, just out of curiosity, a full disclosure, Eric, how much have you paid for that app so far?
Oh, for the PSA Registry app?
Yeah.
How
much are you paying for that? Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
So Brandon, all I'm getting at here, my only point, is that it is a free app for free registry. So I don't blame anyone who feels like they have been left behind by the fact that the bulk rate is not what it once was. So I agree. From a consumer standpoint, I understand that. But going back into the theme of what I was saying, it is a free app for free registry. You don't have to participate in. PSA made a business decision. They just said, like, you know what, guys, like, it was free in the first place. And I'm not speaking for them, but at the same time, like, I can see like the thought process. They go, we're getting 1.2 million cards, man.
It's actually funny that we're even talking about this topic because I don't know, probably a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was going through my phone and looking at all the different apps on it, and I was like, yeah, let me take some of the stuff off I don't ever use. And the PSA Set Registry app was one of them. Like, I get the interest in it. I don't hate on anybody that uses it. I can see it being fun. I don't like that it's, you know, I guess you can enter other company slabs and stuff in there.
You can. Yep.
It just doesn't track it as well or whatever. But we were kind of discussing before we started, and like I said, and I've said it in videos of my own, the registry's cool. I'm not gonna say that it's not, but as you stated, it's just a checklist, and
Yeah.
I don't I don't want to say like 'cause it's not my money. If somebody wants to have all their cards in a PSA holder and compete, or you know, it's kind of like the OPC case, like the $3.7 million, and what you stated there.
Mhm.
It's kinda to brag, you know? You're kinda spending the money to get a high score, to complete a registry, to compete, to essentially brag, and that falls back into kind of what we've been talking about with the whole collector thing too, is a lot, and I shouldn't say a lot, but one thing for me was realizing I didn't need to collect what other people thought was cool, I needed to collect what I thought was cool,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna spend money to even if SGC had it, I'm not gonna sit there and spend money to worry about, like, being top on a list or something, because there's always gonna be somebody out there that's got more money than me, that's gonna be able to buy a nicer copy than me. That's why the vintage and stuff that I would buy was in, like, a variations, as I always like to call it, with no borders or whatever, pinholes or writing on it or whatever, because I could afford it then. I'm not discouraging or saying it's wrong of anybody that enjoys it and does it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to appeal to everybody, and it's not going to be able to continue. I can see PSA if they're getting like we said, a million plus a month, and half of that is Pokemon. They have to have business sense too. Of can we continue appealing to everybody that wants to do some 1979 Topps Commons just to fill out our registry? That's something that, as you mentioned, is free. Like, it's
Yeah.
just a bonus of being a collector club member, doing your cards with PSA. At the end of it, they're still paying employees, they're still paying supply costs, everything else, and they can't say, "Well, you've got these commons over here, we're gonna do them cheaper for you," you know? In a sense, they do, because those cards are less cost and they fit into certain categories, but I don't know, it's just something. I see the interest, so I don't wanna sit here and, like, badmouth the registry. But it's also an option, and if you don't want to spend the money, if it feels like it's too expensive, then there's other ways to enjoy those same cards without that registry aspect, I guess.
I
I don't
agree.
know. I'm not
Yeah.
one that needs to hold everything, even though I grade majority of everything with SGC. I'm not opposed of buying, I got 2 cards in today that are raw. I'm not opposed to buying PSA or Beckett or CGC or whatever. I
Scandalous.
know, Eric, shocker,
Scandalous.
right? I got 2 cards in the
Scandalous.
mail.
Scandalous. Well, so what I was going to say, so I think you made some very good points, and I want to touch on a few of them. But I think one important point that I want to make here. That's why I gave the examples that I gave. It it can be about competing if that is your desire. Like, you can totally. Uh, I just gave you an application where it's like I'm not. Like, I'm intention like the 63 Fleer set. I'm intentionally choosing mid grade. That isn't going to be at the top of the chain. Like, it's just not. Uh, Now, again, we talked about it before we hit live. I'm going to iterate a little bit more here. The 63 Fleer set is one that you can totally do raw. You can 100% do it raw. You can put it in a binder. It's like it's a very attainable. It's 67 cards. That's one of the perks of it. That's part of the reason I like it. Um, I actually decided to do it this way because I thought it would make it more challenging for me. I intentionally added some friction. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, I could go and literally go and pick off all the raw copies that I want. I don't have to do it this way. I intentionally made it a little bit more work to locate the right piece, the right card that I want to add into it. Because, as I said, I'm not getting any of them graded myself. So whatever PSA wants to charge for grading, I don't care. It makes no difference to me because I'm already, like I said, several of the comments I have purchased for cheaper than the cost of grading right now.
Do you and I want to ask this because, again, this is something that the viewers or whatever can comment if they
Sure.
choose to. We kind of mentioned this slightly before we went live here, but do you think that some of our previous conversations about player collecting,
Mhm.
the mass amount of ultra modern, the pretty much cutting ties with being able to create a registry for ultra modern stuff that people would even be able to complete realistically. Do you think that's kind of like PSA has recognized that and understands that there is almost a niche element to the registry now? So they know that they need to not necessarily get rid of it, but change their focus onto, I mean, they're a business, they got to make the money, right?
Mhm.
And the ultra modern stuff, like, I just don't know how you would create a registry for it. Like,
Mhm.
it would, if there was one, it would be kind of vague and it would be pulling bits and pieces from it. And I just don't know that that would go back to like what the registry originated as, if that makes any sense. Do you think they recognize that? And that's also part of the reason that they're not as so gung ho or worried about, you know, the impacts of their current business model on it?
Mhm. So I think you're touching on a couple of really important points. So I'll hit on a couple of the notes you're hitting. I think, to your point, they're a business. I think what they realize is that the registry on its own right now is going to exist as it is right now without them having to really put much focus in on it. They can basically just keep it running as it is without having to expend more energy and more resources necessarily. The thing with the happened with the registry is originally you started off with however many sets they came out with originally. But if you go take a look at the registry, what you're going to discover is there are so many little mini variants, niches on niches. One of the registry sets that you could do is the Mike Payne's top 300 cards or whatever it is. It's literally based on a book. I have a copy of the book. It's actually really cool, like coffee table book, but all the cards inside of it are available as a set registry that you can do. So Mike Payne's 300 cards, whatever it's called. But it's a cool idea, but it's because somebody proposed it. PSA themselves didn't come out there and go, yeah, we'll do that. And then Beckett had like a top 80 cards of the 1980s they did in a magazine a couple of years back. And then people lobbied for it and say, hey, can we have that as a set registry? And then after a while, they said, yeah, here you go, sure. So what they would literally just take feedback from the audience. But what happens is now, and this is kind of playing into like I said, Scott's video, and that's why I gave that initial like firing the customer thing. It doesn't have to be malicious. This is an important thing. It doesn't have to be like out of anger or like, oh, we don't want these. No, they would love to have everybody's business, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to try to cater to everybody at the same time. You're not going to be able to do that. And I think what happened is the registry is a thing that existed for a while. It served its purpose. I think for some folks, they will continue on unabated because there's some folks that are building sets that are honestly going to cost more than the bare minimum grading anyway. And it cost them more before. So it's not like it changed anything for them. If you're doing a T206 set in a registry, do you really, is it really, you're not submitting in bulk anyway. So probably that's not a factor for you. Or again, if you're somebody like in the case that I'm doing it for that 63 Fleer set, I'm buying the cards already graded. So I've already factored in the cost already playing into it. Like, and I can choose my own desire. I don't have to collect the highest end set. I could choose to collect a mid lower grade version of it and do it inexpensively. But again, I'm choosing to do that. It is free. I'm not getting charged for it. And I'm not a collectors club member. I was able to create the account for free and the app is free and I can just scan the thing and look at it and do all that stuff if I wish. I can do team sets. I can do, but what's going to happen is a bunch of the little niche ones, some of those player master checklists and stuff like that are hundreds and hundreds of cards, where a bunch of the cards are like relatively inexpensive ones. Probably those are going to fall by the wayside because the cost is too high for the people that were doing it. But then some of the other registries will probably thrive because those people aren't affected by it. They're not as affected by the cost in the same way. So they'll just keep chugging along as if nothing is going on because to them nothing has changed. But I think what will happen is some of those registries will start to die off and they'll start to call those. And what they'll realize, it'll also be like a survey for them. It'll be like almost like, oh, which categories are people still interested in? Even with everything the way it's structured. Oh, these ones are still really active. People are still adding a lot in here. Like, oh, so maybe those categories are kind of interesting for folks. And then if the moment is right, you can do like a special. You can be like, hey, this category, is for the next month is this price. So you can actually pick and choose and strategically pick and choose. And the ones that die off that really aren't getting that much impacted, they just won't get discussed again. And they'll sit there and just die on the vine. That's just my opinion. I think that's what's good. And to be honest, from a business perspective, I can't blame them. There's no reason to really expend too much more energy. But like I said, if something's super hot and people are like really into this one specific couple of registries, they'll probably do stuff to cater to those folks. because those folks are still churning money into the machine. So they will be like, "Yep, here you go. Here's something for you." They'll pick and
I
choose
know
their
Eric's
spots.
been secretly working on a Jason Robertson registry, so I can't wait to see till it's completed.
The
It's
massive
sensational.
big one. Not
It's actually only one of ones, Brandon. It's very exciting. He's only one of ones.
Yeah.
So he will
I
be
could believe
automatically
that.
number
I could
one.
believe it.
Simply completing it, he will be number one because no one else can have one.
That is correct.
Pretty
My
exciting.
order going out this week to PSA is, I got like 75 cards going out this week, all one-on-one Jason Robertsons.
Yeah, it was going to happen. It's going to be crazy because that order, when
I'm
it's
proud
done,
of you, Eric.
Thank you.
it's huge. Yeah, when that order comes back and he gets invoiced for it, he's going to pay 3.73 million because he's not a peasant.
Chump change.
And because
Yeah,
it was
he's
Jason Robertson.
Yeah.
Whew, big money.
Upside.
Big money.
All the upsides.
Amazing. But do you get what I'm saying though, Brendan? I think it's almost like for them, it's almost like a business case. Like again, take away the emotional element for a second. Because like I said, when I was watching the video, I understood. I want to make sure I make clear. I am sympathetic, I get it. But I actually understand it from a business perspective. I think they're looking at it realistically. And they're saying half of the stuff we're grading is Pokemon. What do the Pokemon people want? What do the people who are submitting the stuff want? If it's so much ultra modern, then probably the set registry isn't a priority anymore. It's just whatever categories are actually being fulfilled.
The other side is okay, and Scott he's a player collector. He does his Gary Carter, he does his Pete Alonso's.
Yeah.
But imagine if PSA tried to make sure that the registry was tiered for different levels of players, and they tried to create it tiered and optional for every player that's been out there and had cards. It would literally be impossible.
Yeah.
There's just I'm a guy, I collect Victor Robles, Michael Taylor. Like, they're not going to cater to me because I collect, lower tier guys that aren't too expensive and say, "Oh, well, we want you to be a part of this registry. We're going to make these cheaper, and but if you send your Juan Sotos in, we're going to have to charge you more." It's just, they all run through the same funnel, so it has to be accounted for in the same manner. And again, their business has changed over the last several years. We didn't Pokemon's been popular. It's been a thing since the late 90s, but the increase in demand of grading of Pokemon has surged the numbers. Like, 1 million plus every month. People thought a year ago at this time that PSA's numbers would drop off. They haven't dropped off a bit. And then we see, we're talking about the card market declining, and yet we're seeing SGC, the company that just a few years ago was number 4 or 3, I guess at the time you could say, breaking records of their biggest month they've ever done, and their turnaround times actually getting longer, meaning that the demand isn't just a little one-off. They did more that month than they had ever done, and yet we're still falling further behind. So even in a down market, the demand for all of this grading is increasing, and I'm sure they would love to be able to say, "Hey, we love you guys that support our registry. All of you guys that support our registry, every registry checklist that is out there. We love all of you, and we're going to do this for all of you folks." I'm sure they would love to, but they keep seeing that number tick, 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 and PSA got slammed for so long about their turnaround. If they went and did that, they would be digging themselves in a 12 million pile hole again. I mean, we know it. Like, if they said, "Hey, $8 a card, the pile, the mounds of stuff that would be coming in, there would be no way. They would just be behind again.
Well, kind of playing what you're saying though as well, like SGC, right? So let's forget PSA for just a second. Let's cast them aside. Let's just forget them for a second. Okay, SGC. SGC, we make the jokes about, SGC Pete and the whole thing. Like nobody has done more work as an individual being present for their brand, helping out the goodwill of the brand. Let's just call it that way. But even then, they've got the various Topps specials, Topps and Bowman specials when the new sets come out and everything like that. Hey, and they're nice specials. They're a nice way of providing that option for folks. But here's the thing: I was talking about the $8 grading, and I think we were talking about before we go. I remember 2018, and to your point, it might have been a couple of years after that. But let's just, for the sake of argument, let's say 2018. It was $8 a card bulk rating. It was $8 a card. But here's the funny thing: even now, SGC, as good as they are, as the turnaround times, everything they've done. But even when they do the special, is it $8? No, it's $9.
No.
And when they're regular, it's like, to your point, they broke a record for the amount of cards. So do you think they can even afford, even if they wanted to, could they go to $8 or $7 a card right now? Like, would it make any sense for them to do that? It would be a terrible idea for them.
There would be no way, because if you notice, they didn't even do it for the last two most recent releases of Bowman and now flagship Topps. They didn't do the special because
and they can't.
They admitted they got a little bit behind. And like I was trying as a bulk submitter. I'm sitting here looking at numbers, and I was like, from December and January, and I'm like, oh, in the heck, like what's going on? They opened the new office. It was supposed to increase the volume, the capacity, and everything. It was, they said they were going to be able to handle more. And then I'm like, what are these numbers going to look like for gem rate? And then gem rate pops up, and it's like the biggest month they've ever done. And I'm like, how in the hell is that even possible? They did more cards than they've ever done. So obviously the office helped them. They were doing more, but then the turnaround still grew. And it's like, there's so much with this, decreasing card prices and increasing wax prices and everything else. And, PSA is still pumping $1+ million a month, and half of that or whatever is still coming in as Pokemon. And then you got SGC, who doesn't even have a registry, and they're freaking breaking numbers and their turnaround, and they're not Pokemon related. So like their numbers are mostly supported by sports cards. And it's just, I mean, I'm sure PSA would love to do something, but I almost think, and this is going to be another hot take.
Oh, hold on.
Let me get my seatbelt on. Hold on.
Buckle your seatbelts.
We're prepared. No, for the audio folks, we're leaning back in the chairs. We're bracing ourselves. Brandon's about to hit it. Right. Eric, I'm about to do the flaming Elmo meme somewhere in the screen. Please continue.
I'm going to have my phone ready to call 911. Go ahead.
If PSA wanted to do something to where they would appease at a lower level to these set registry folks, and this I know folks would say would be the dumbest idea ever, they would need to come with a facility and a price point and an alternative grading source as the Beckett 8000C G grading, and just do it as what the BCCG was, Beckett Collector Club grading. That would be the only way I could see it being a thing and being a cheaper cost, and then appealing and being able to do it. And am I wrong? I know it sounds stupid. It is a very dumb idea. But they would have to do an option like that. That they could just slap them in there with a number on the slab, move them along at a cheap cost, put a serial number on it that you could put it in as your registry for the lower end stuff, especially. Like, I'm not saying you're going to have your 52 manos in the collector club slab, but
I think you kind of.
I just don't think there's another way to do it.
That is.
I just don't think there's another way to do it.
Listen,
that's scorching hot take.
People coming to your house soon to help you.
Go when they bring the jacket with the little straps on it. Go with them. They're there to help you. They're there to help you. It's like, ooh, a scorching hot take.
But do you get my point of what
I
I'm
do.
saying?
I do get your point. I do get your point.
Listen, we all can have points, but as soon as you bring in the BCCCCCCCCCG as anything positive, you have lost me. Because
Eric, I'm trying to decide.
I don't blame you.
Eric, I'm trying to decide. Help me here. Is this like Brandon's way? Like he already took like a backhanded shot. Somewhere Beckett is like rolling in his grave and he's still alive. So the Jeff Wilson comp, like somewhere he's like, oh, it's like a body blow. And then he referenced BCCCCG. And then he's referencing that. It's like, oh, another body blow. It's like, are you trying to take the man out? Like the
No,
man's
this
just
has
living his life.
nothing
He's
to do
retired.
with the Beckett name.
Don't abuse
There
the
wa-
man. He's old.
It would need to be a collector's club. I don't know how else to put it. It would have to be an alternative grading function than the normal PSA grading for them to be able to
Worth
offer it at a discounted rate and
Worth
get it done, offer it at a cheaper rate, have it,
Worth
tied in to the whatever. It would need to be like, and this is for the lower end, I'm not saying for everything, but how else do you do it?
Okay, so I get a Gretzky rookie. This is just what would happen with that dumpster fire of a company. I'd like to have BCCCCCCCCG services, please. Okay, it comes back a 9. Thank you. That's great. I resubmit it to BVG. Oh well, that's a 7. Oh, okay. I resubmit it. I
Then
just want regular Beckett, please. Oh, that's
hold
a
on,
10.
hold on.
Gem Mint 10.
Nope. I'm going to stop you right there because you never have obviously read the BCCCCCCCCCCG label because the 10 is not stated as gem mint. It is mint. It is a completely different grading scale. So
It
what
is,
you
yes.
are stating makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're gonna get me going, and it was supposed to be 5% more mature, and I am doing everything I can. I am on drugs at the moment. My head.
I like that you said at the moment. Go on.
My head is not clear. I am trying to stay more mature. And you brought up the dumbest thing that's ever happened in our hobby. And there has been so many dumb ass, stupid ass shit that's gone on since the birth of this hobby. You bring
Tag
up the,
rating. Go on.
the absolute dumbest one of all time and said, let's do something like that.
Well, Eric, would you change your mind if PSA got robots to do the grading?
But they're gonna still grade it like BCCCCCCCCC.
Well, if you get robots, they could do it like to 47 decimal points if you want. Like it doesn't really matter at that stage.
Cheaper labor costs, all of that. Like, I'm just
Well,
saying.
allegedly, unless you need a lot of human QA, then it kind of sucks. It's not good.
But it wouldn't, because it's just like you can just put a dang number on it, and it would. That's my point, right? You're just slapping it. Like
we're gonna find it. We're gonna find out.
People already say PSA just gives the grades, right? They don't actually grade the cards. They just slap a number on it. It's a spin of the wheel, this, that, and the other, right? We're taking it a step further. We're going to make it to where it is acceptable to just slap the number on it. It's not going to be anything guaranteed or anything. It's just, it's poopy pony grading on steroids.
Listen, I like the direction this is going, but it is veering dangerously into Friday territory. But I also want to make a valid point here. Eric, are you sensing what I'm sensing? I feel like Brandon secretly is like he's entering into the I want it all to burn phase. He's entering into that era. He's like, you know what, guys? I'm just gonna throw this out here. Like, it's like what's gonna happen the first day this gets implemented. Somebody at PSA is like, hey, Brandon's making some good points over there. Southern Santa Claus is making some solid points. I'm into the cut of this guy's jib. And they go and do it. And the first thing that happens is they listen to you and you go and put in your booby or you go send in your card. And what comes out? What spits out? He goes, it's a 9. Okay, great. Jason Robertson. It's like, that's Bobby Orr. It says, it's like, next one. It's like Fish Boy, Jason Robertson. Okay, next one. It's like, what is that? Pokemon card, Jason Robertson. It's like, it all just says Jason Robertson. It's Jason Robertson.
I want
grading.
the Pokemon Jason Robertson. I'll buy that one.
All of them are just, it's all Jason Robertson. It doesn't matter what it is. You're Jason Robertson. You're Jason Robertson. You're Spartacus. You're Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
Exactly.
He's Spartacus.
For all the people who watch this Tuesday thinking, hey, on my way to work, I'm going to listen to something 5% more mature.
Oh, please don't listen to us on the way to work.
Learn something about the hobby from these seasoned veterans. We apologize. We're sorry
Who,
that we're in
who would accuse us of this idiocy?
we apologize for being in your ear holes at the moment. You have my
Can I
support.
get a roll call of anyone? Well, actually, I want two things. I want a roll call of anyone that listens to this on the way to work. My condolences. That's the first thing I want. First thing I want. And secondly, I would like to know who actually listens to this and take anything we say seriously. Because again, my condolences. For a second time, my condolences.
Oh my
If the
God.
first condolences was not enough. We just had this man. This man is literally promoting anarchy. Which, listen, I'm kind of into it. Eric knows that I'm kind of into it. Like I'm kind of appreciating the direction this is going.
I'm just throwing, like, some people on YouTube in the sports car space, they just ask questions. I'm just throwing out ideas.
Yeah, Brandon,
That's my thing. I'm just tossing out ideas.
We'll slap it and call it authentic. But if you're gonna start putting a different grading system on it, like the BC, G, it's utterly ridiculous. That is the dumbest, most garbage move in the history of the hobby.
We can keep it authentic. It would still work perfect with the registry. It just wouldn't have the
Authentic Jason
competitive
Robertson.
level.
Authentic Jason Robertson. Authentic Jason Robertson.
It just wouldn't have the competitive level because then you couldn't say that yours is a 6.25943 and I couldn't say mine was a 10.
Yeah.
We would just be authentic.
I like the direction this entire thing went.
Is there any card that didn't get a 10 from BCCCCCCG?
Yeah, I definitely seen ones that didn't get a 10.
I have ever seen at every show I've ever been to has a 10 on it. They might as well call themselves KSA.
Hey, listen, I know for a fact that at least they had some. I know for a fact KSA at least had some sevens.
Oh my God! Do you know what a 7 would have to look like? And you have to. It came out of the washer machine after three cycles.
Boom, BCCG 9. Bam, done.
And there you go. It's a cheap card. An Ozzie Smith registry person would love that.
Oh my God!
Any more questions, sir?
And it's cracked. And
it's cracked.
It comes at you that way. That's why they keep the prices down. You get it back that way.
I knew you would love my idea, Eric. I had to throw it out there.
Brandon, I for one enjoy your, like I said, I'm enjoying your anarchist era.
I'm gonna just have to come up with a hot take every week, and I would like to also just make it known we don't discuss usually the topic beforehand until right before we go live. So this wasn't like I had this hot take in my back pocket and brought it out. This was literally thought of on the fly. So I know it's a great idea and shocking to all of you.
Yep.
Last week's comment was on the fly. It was, so yeah, just for some clarity there. But carry on.
I just want to make clear that those of you who watched the video version were able to watch us last week recoil in horror and steadily distance ourselves from Brandon's entire line of thinking. But I will say this week, I am leaning in. I am in on this ridiculous idea. I love it, but I also like Schadenfreude. So I should point out, full disclosure, I do enjoy my Schadenfreude, so you may want to factor that into my endorsement. Factor that in, consider it carefully, and be forewarned. Let me put a little button on this one. We're actually doing pretty well with time, and I'm pretty happy with it. But I do want to touch on a couple of things here just to finish this off. One thing that I want to hit on here is we went in a couple different. Oh, Eric's got he's using his drugs as an excuse.
I need more.
He's going to need some more drugs. But I'm going to say this. I think we ended up, I think, talking more about the set registry than anything else. But all I was going to get at is kind of just to put a button on this point was that I think what happened with that is I think it's become a reflection of where their business is going now. I think the fact that SGC did not bother to put in the resources to set up a registry is a testament to where their business is right now. I think my bottom line is that I don't think it's malicious. I don't think they're going out of but I think they've realized that, hey, at the end of the day, SGC, PSA, CGC and Beckett allegedly, I'll say allegedly, presumably they're for-profit businesses. They are like, and they've always been. Their job is to do. I said allegedly, Eric. I covered this.
Okay.
The point is that look, do a better job, and maybe they'll start making some money. But the point is that they are for-profit business. They've always been. The idea, the premise that they're for the collector. Look, it's a great marketing branding statement to say. It's a lovely thing to say. They would still like to charge you for that. Like I said, even SGC, who's done a very good job with theirs. Look, they're not doing this for free. All you got to do is go to the website right now, and you can go take a look. They're having a record number of submissions. They had a tremendous month. Well, their cheapest grade, normal cheapest grade right now is $15. That is more. That is nearly double what I was talking about there in 2018. The PSA was doing, and it's one of those things. It's like at the end of the day, their demand can warrant that. Their demand can hold that, and even then they're slowing down because they're getting enough volume in to take care of it. So, and we already know that if for some reason they got backlog, they've used the lever and they bumped up the price before. It's happened.
Just for complete perspective, it will be soon that it's been 4 years since we became bulk submitters for SGC. And at the time that we started, I was offering submissions at $8.50 a card.
Mm-hmm.
And currently we are at 14.
Mm-hmm.
So it is borderline close to double,
Yep.
What it was 4 years ago. So
Yep.
that kind of puts some perspective to it. And they're doing way more cards than they were back then.
They are. And that's the more collector friendly, front facing customer. Again, full credit to them for what they've done. But let's make this clear. They're still a business. SGC Pete has a boss. There is an owner, and his desire is to make money. That's his job. SGC Pete can be the friendliest guy in the world, but if he's not making money, he will not be SGC Pete any longer. He will just be Pete. You can drop the SGC from it. So his job at the end of the day is to make that a profitable business, to maintain that as a profitable business, the same as everybody else, the same as all the other companies. They're all trying to do the same thing. And one other thought I want to give, kind of peeling into the bulk submission thing. I think part of what's happened with that, and that was one of the other critiques that Big Scott had, which was valid, is that a lot of the friction, the shipping hassles, the upcharges, all the things are to make it a little bit more difficult for the average, the little guy, to submit directly to it. And the truth is, there is an element of that is kind of the point, is that the graders, not unlike the card manufacturers, why do the card manufacturers not do direct to consumer all the time? Fanatics is starting to do that a little bit. Panini's doing that with First Off the Line. But why, Brandon, do the card manufacturers previously? Why didn't they just sell you the boxes one at a time, individually previously?
Logistics,
fulfillment. It costs money to have a shipping department that can handle those many SKUs going in that many different directions. You know what's a lot easier? Sending tractor trailers full to a distributor who will take care of that for you. That's the reason the distributor basically exists. Their job was to get pallets full of these products coming in, but they do it for a price. They do it for a cost. That's the reason I'm bringing that up, is it's the same premise.
Yep. It's the same way that the grading companies, and I feel this is where Beckett and CGC, why they struggle a bit outside of other, things within the hobby, but these grading companies thrive on bulk submissions because it allows them to do more cards quicker. It's a lot easier to do a 100 card submission than it is, even 10 card submissions, because then you have 10 different people that you have to go into invoices for. You have 10 different boxes that you have to pack and ship out, all of that stuff. Every time you break it down further, the more, the longer it takes. So PSA, they've always had some very, very large bulk submitters. SGC, they started ramping up, I guess probably 2 years ago. They started pushing real hard and bringing on a lot more bulk submitters than they used to have. And as they did, the more they grew. Now they're taking another step and they're hitting a lot of shows where, obviously then you're dealing with individual customers, but you're doing it all at one instance, kind of, because you're at the show taking it all in on their behalf. I think the show element actually hurts them in a sense because it's costing them more to get those cards in at the same rate, and it is broken down, but it's putting it out there. It's advertising this in a sense. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, what do you never hear about with Beckett and CGC? You never hear about bulk submitters. And I'm an authorized dealer for CGC, so I know how their side of the numbers work, and it's nearly impossible. Like there's not much advantage to the consumer to offer bulk on as far as
Mhm.
pricing and stuff, so it's not that appealing. And Beckett, their prices and demand to be a bulk submitter, like they've reached out to me asking me if I would do it. I looked at what they laid out on the table and I'm like, you're crazy. Like it's impossible. And so like that, I think that's really where them two companies are sliding down the rails because they don't have the bulk presence. The
Mhm.
companies, it benefits them. It people think bulk submitters are making money hand over fist, and you're very familiar with AMG and Brad and all
Mhm.
them, but you also you see that backside of the work and the margins and everything else on it for the work that is necessary to do all of that. It's
Mhm.
not as much as people would think at the end of the day.
Yeah, but the
So
reason I brought that up, so the reason I wanted to kind of connect the two things here, just so that we all brought it all together, is that I gave that example with the distribution model on the manufacturers and everything. They did it for a purpose. The purpose was the logistic. Fanatics has the logistics capability to be able to do that more because they already have a built-in infrastructure. To them, it's not reinventing the wheel. They already maybe they expand their existing capacity and just change it how they deal with the SKUs. But Tops prior to that didn't really have it that way anymore. Like they had gone past it. Panini didn't have it that way. Upper Deck doesn't really have it that way. Do they have authorized dealers that they can submit some product to? Yeah, but in relative terms, that's still relatively small potatoes to the sheer quantities that are going into distribution model. There's a reason in Canada Grosvenor exists, GTS exists, Southern Hobby. Like there were all these distributors, right? And there's a reason why they exist. Well, the bulk submitter has become that for the grader because for PSA, it's easier to have one invoice or a couple of invoices in one order that are broken down. Your job, get it graded, get it thrown in a box, get it shipped out to one location. Then you, the bulk submitter, it's your job to separate it out into 50 orders, 100 orders, however many there are. It's now your problem. You got the
yep.
order, they got the stuff back to you. Now you got to figure out how to get it back into the person's hands, as opposed to PSA having to do that. They just have to send it to you and make sure you got it. Or SGC, same principle, same idea.
Yeah, at the end of the day, a bulk submitter is almost like a contract worker with the grading company to do the sorting, the preparation of the invoices and the sorting process at the end to hit the end customer. That's essentially what the bulk submitters are. But it
Absolutely.
helps them. It helps them. So
Yeah, but there's a reason. To put a closing on this point, that is the reason why they have moved their model towards catering towards that. It is because for PSA, SGC, and obviously less so CGC, maybe and Beckett to their detriment, obviously. Uh, but those other two who are doing very well realize that it's easier for us. It makes it easier for us to be able to handle our business.
I just real quick, there was something else I wanted to mention because
Go ahead.
I talked so much about how it helped the customer or it helped the grading company. There has been people, and I never thought about this on the back end because I've never submitted to SGC in like a small personal order ever. My first order with them was 110 cards of my own. But people have reached out and said, even though the price difference isn't much between what you could do your own now and with the bulk submitter, it's still a large benefit because I guess the shipping costs that the grading companies themselves charge to send back to the customer versus what I'm able to charge the customer to ship back saves the people money,
Yes.
if that makes any sense. Because
Yep.
like I heard like like if you submitted one or two cards, it's going to cost you $20 at least to get it shipped back to you. And for me, I can ship out, one or two cards to somebody for like $5. So, because of the differences and I can offer, ground advantage rate on
Yeah.
whatever. And they have a standard flat rate that they go by. So
Yeah.
that is something to mention. It's
And here's a
not
question:
just
Have
helping.
you ever? Here's a question for you: Have you ever consolidated a couple of orders if somebody's sending a couple of cards at a time? Say, hey, can you hold a couple of them and send in one shipment?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually have some people too that, like James Gillum, he normally comes down for the Chantilly show, and
Hmm.
he'll send, sometimes he'll send cards, and if he knows he's gonna be coming down, he'll just say, "Hey, put him in my drawer." He's got a drawer in the
Hmm.
other room that I'll put his cards in. Or I have the opposite where people will send me tons of cards so they don't have to ship every month, and they'll be like, "Hey, can you go in my box and pull 100 cards out?" They've already shipped them here. They don't have to send
Hmm.
them each month or whatever. They're just like, "Hey, can you go in and pull out, 100 cards, 25 cards, whatever." So
Hmm.
I have that end of it
Yeah.
too. So
But those two are my point. My point is that's something you can offer as
mhm,
yourself, as your own business. And prior, like we always talk about it, like prior to PSA Canada being officially under the PSA umbrella, like officially, when they were operating as a bulk submitter, they did offer that. That was an option for some of the customers where they could maybe I've got two or three different or at different service levels, right? Some of the service levels come a little quicker, some of them come a little bit slower. Maybe as opposed to you shipping three or four different orders out to me that come within a couple of weeks of each other and having to bill me every single time for shipping, I could ask you, hey, can you consolidate these? They're my orders, but can you bring them together and ship me one package for one rate? And the answer was
mhm,
yes. A lot oftentimes the answer was yes. Within reason,
definitely.
unless you're being ridiculous, but within reason, they would be able to accommodate that. Well, PSA won't do that.
Right.
Or SGC won't do that because their business is like, hey, we graded this. We're not hanging on to it for you. Like, hey, take your stuff. This is yours. But we're also going to charge you the shipping on each one of those components. That's where a bulk submitter can. So I understand it from the perspective of the grader, and it can be beneficial to the customer. But I also understand the frustration if you're a customer who would like the option of submitting yourself and it's not as advantageous for you. And that was kind of that overarching point where I said, like, the fire the customer. It doesn't have to be malicious. It doesn't have to be like, oh man, we don't want your business. It can be like, hey, it's just easier for us to work it this way because in the grand total, our job is still to make money. It's less of a pain in the ass for us to do it this way. And if you do work with these people, then it's easier for us. They get the stuff, they ship it to you. But I understand if you don't want to do that, then it might not make sense for you. Maybe you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's many things even outside of the hobby that you're gonna get discount on doing things that's easier for the business. I mean, hell, go to Sam's Club, right? You pay for a membership to get in the door, but you're going to buy bigger quantity of things and it's going to wind up costing you less. Why? Well,
Mhm.
because you can buy it in a bulk, sizing. So it's not just the hobby and cards and grading and all that stuff. It may seem like that sometimes, but that's kind of just business. So,
Yep. And I think so. Like as a final thought, just to close off on this, we do want to kind of point out we obviously were able to have a nice discussion and cover a lot of angles and directions on it, but also we got to remind everybody these are basically fancy holders. Just don't take it too seriously. Like my recommendation as a collector. So this will be like our moment of lucidity here at the end. Although I did enjoy when Brandon was asking the world to burn a little bit. I did appreciate that segment. It was kind of fun for me. I might have the flaming elbow meme on the video version. I'm just throwing it out there. By the way, I want your opinions on Brandon's wonderful idea. It's glorious, spectacular. You can see Eric's glee when he described it and he thought about Beckett Collector Club grading. The joy that came over his face. It was glorious. But bottom line, these are fancy holders. Can they serve a purpose? Yes. Can they offer liquidity for some cards? Yes. Can they enhance value on it? That is also true. It can be any of these things for you, but it's also not required. You don't have to. Like it's completely fine. And if it doesn't make sense for you anymore, then maybe it's not something that you should participate in. And that's completely okay. Part of being a collector is making the decisions and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. And
I haven't
I'm never
sent
going to recommend something like that for you. Go
I
ahead.
haven't sent cards in probably in a couple months. And again, I'm a book smitter. It's
Did I
fun.
mention scandalous? Did I mention Eric? Did I mention scandalous? It's all about the scandalousness today, man. Jeez,
But it's
I'm
good lord.
scandalous. I
surprised he
didn't say
finally
nothing scandalous.
realizes that grading is a scam.
No, 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 no.
Yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
just I I graded so much so quickly. It like I started realizing like when y'all asked one time how many cards people had. I think I had 2 full boxes that I forgot about when I gave y'all the number. I think it was like at 700 or 800 cards slapped. That's a lot of cards to be graded. I mean, so I kind of realized I was forgetting about things that I had, and that's why I've been rewinding my collection a bit and like saying, okay, I really like this. I'm keeping it. This, I didn't even remember having it. I'm going to let it go, kind of thing. And just kind of roping it back in and getting it under control because it had kind of gotten out of control in a sense. So,
How much?
Brandon, just
and
think
it's
about that.
okay.
That entire holding, all those cards could have been one 1972 Topps registry set. You could have had one 1972 Topps registry set,
Dang, I
and
could
that
be
would have been
number
basically everything.
one.
You could be number one.
How much will it cost me to have this Christopher Blevins American flag parallel out of 299 graded by SGC? $14?
$432.
Okay, because of the upcharge. Okay.
No, there
Well,
is no
it
upcharge.
would
with
basically be
SGC.
it'd basically be the basically it's the charge of Brandon getting your card, cackling,
Yep.
and then having a party where he just sits there with the missus, and they have a good laugh over a nice dinner, a very expensive bottle of wine. Like it all adds into the cost. It all goes into the cost. It's all part of it. And then
No, it would be
$14 for the SGC.
$14, Eric, plus whatever shipping and handling charges.
I didn't pay that much for the card.
You shouldn't have.
He's
I'm
a
not sure you
former
should have paid
world
14
champion.
cents for the card.
He is a national champion and a former world champion
In bicycle.
in mountain biking, cross country mountain biking.
Wonderful.
I bought
Glorified Peloton.
foosball cards.
That's right. All
And
because you haven't gotten into the Peloton. You wait until you get to Prism Peloton. It's going to be very exciting. I'm
Out of
looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
299.
I can't believe Topps made that. I'm offended.
Yeah, well,
Hey, just real quick, and this is off the subject, but man, times have definitely changed since the boom, huh? You remember when ComC was trying to buy top loaders from people because they were having a shortage? Now
Yeah,
they
the
send you an
shortages.
additional one for protection. Look at that. They give you one with the card in it, and then they give you one to make it a little bit stiffer.
Well,
Remember
they
the
got- look,
days
they
when
gotta
were
give-
wanting to
look.
buy them because they didn't have any?
I don't want to broach an entire secondary topic. We're not going to do that right now. But I'm going to say they it's the least they can do, given that they're slowly. Eric, we're on watch right now. Machine building you can see from space. The turnaround times are slowing down. We're watching. Listen, I have ordered a shipment from ComC,
oh
and I
boy.
use the standard rate. So I will keep everyone posted, and I will keep everyone abreast of how the timing goes. Right now, there's still time. There's still time, but I'm watching a little countdown.
You did this for science. Good for you.
Yes, I did, and because
I
like
just
I had
paid
like
the,
130 card and I wanted it. So yes.
I just paid the eBay tax so I could actually get it.
Oh yeah, no. Look, if you do it through eBay, you'll get it quicker. But I have accumulated like I'll share more when we get closer to delivery and everything. But I actually accumulated a lot of like Medano cards and some of the other stuff because of the EPAC stuff. Even
Yeah.
a bunch of SP Signature Legends stuff.
Ooh.
Oh yes, very exciting. But it was available and it was there and the price was right, man.
I just got a Reggie out of 5. Number 1 out of 5.
Look at Mr. Rainbow over here.
Yeah, he's got added to the set registry.
Yeah, the Reggie Lemlin set registry. Woot woot.
One, because no one else would do it.
His daughter might. I don't know.
No, she's got standards. She's got better things to do.
She's actually an actress.
Has she been in anything we've heard of?
Yes.
Interesting. And by that, I mean, we're going to wind down the show now. So with that said, on that bombshell, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the interesting discussion. Brandon, thank you for helping the world burn. I did appreciate that. You know, the hottest of hot takes, the scorching of scorching hot. Like I said, I feel like there's a vendetta with you and Beckett that I want more of because I'm enjoying it personally. It's like, what can I do to desecrate this man's memory? What can I do to desecrate this man's memory? at every
need to
turn.
come on
But-
Friday's show, so I will act 100 times more mature on the subject.
and discuss these takes. By the way, in the comment section, feel free to discuss Brandon's current vendetta against Beckett. The man is still alive, so these are personal attacks, as far as I can tell. Like it's very interesting the approach he's taken to this. So it's I don't know what precipitated it. I'm kind of enjoying it. Again, fan of Show in Front. Just full disclosure. I also want to thank our friends at AMG Collectibles for putting up with our nonsense, supporting the channel, and also the live stream. I think you might be surprised. I think some of them may get a bit of a kick out of it. On the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, we will be having an episode tomorrow. So this episode is going to drop on Tuesday morning, but then later on in Tuesday, you will also have the AMG Collectibles. I want to say live stream, but it's actually wrong. Podcast, where we're going to talk about some more stuff that happened in the shop, and also the trade night and recent card show that they had. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So I think that'll be fun. So for us, we appreciate you. If you would hit the like button on YouTube, Eric appreciates that. He has floating, thumbs up appearances on his screen occasionally. Is pertaining to that. So that's always a big thing. And then also you can hear the audio version. It is on Spotify and Google Play, I think, and some other locations that you can check it out. Otherwise, more podcast episodes coming up on Tuesdays, and then Friday live streams, in addition to other videos on the YouTube channel. So for Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Cards, 540 Flips, and Wanting the World to Burn, and Eric Sanderson DeOr on Instagram. You can check that out and send him your approval of more ideas for Beckett type things. He's into that kind of thing. So if you want to talk about the 1986 Boston Red Sox, he's really into that. If you want to send him messages about
so much.
He's all he wants to talk about. It's really disturbing.
Calvin Schiraldi first. You got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for that's it for us this time around. We thank you, and we'll catch you in the next one.